are in Oklahoma City, and we are at the home of one of our viewer garden winners, and this is Greg Heartsill. And Greg, we're so excited to be in your garden, and thank you for inviting us in.
I'm glad to be here. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm looking forward to showing you my garden.
That's awesome. Well, Greg, tell us, this year's theme was water use, and specifically kind of talking about wise garden use. And what was your vision for your garden when you planted it?
Well, first of all, I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a lawn. I've mowed a lot in my life, and I didn't want a lawn. I decided that big deck, circular drive, gravel walkway would be fine. So that's what I've based my ideas on.
That's great. And who helped you make this come to life?
Oh, first of all, I've got a lot of helpful consultation through the years with John Fluitt. He provided me with great guidance for some of the stuff I've done. Very
good. And so how did you choose? We can kind of look around and see what you chose. What are some of the plants that you chose, and why did you choose them? I see this just beautiful tree here.
This is a parasol, a Chinese varnish tree. When I used to walk at the Arboretum at Will Rogers Park, I saw one. I enjoyed the huge leaves. Now it's not evergreen, but in the summer the huge leaf provides a great canopy. But one of my favorite trees, I have 7 live oaks. These live oaks were grown from acorns from the native stand of live oaks, indigenous Oklahoma's Quartz Mountain. And they are hardy. If they can survive in western Oklahoma, they can survive anywhere. They take it with drought tolerant, a lot of water. They've done just fine. The 2 in the front yard I planted in '98, which was one of the hottest years we've ever had, and they just thrive. So I'm really happy to have the live oaks here, the hardy Quartz Mountain live oaks.
That's great, and that's actually a key part of a water use type landscape, is that it can do with what water is available, if it's a drought year or if it's a deluge like we've had this year. And the native plants, any native plants that you can get, it's good to have those because they can take whatever weather comes at them in our area.
I have a number of almost 2 dozen Nellie R. Stevens hollies, which once I got those established, they don't need any watering. Now I've also tried to come in with some Allegheny viburnums. I've got 5 of them here, but then I've come back in and just brought in some nandinas, domestica nandinas particularly, that I've tried to tolerate Oklahoma's summers. And they provide evergreen. Now one of the mainstays of this garden is the liripe, the monkey grass. After all this rain, I've gotten to where I call it gorilla grass instead of monkey grass because they've just grown tremendously. So I've got a lot of that, and they stay green in the winter, which is nice. When the snow's covered, I still have some green in the garden.
That's good. That's also another aspect, is using plants that have tested well, like over time. Even though they've been imported, they do well in our area with the climate that we have, and that's a really good part. I noticed that you have put a lot of stress on plants that are evergreen. You like green.
I do. I don't. Now, if I had it to do over again, I would have more hardy Quartz Mountain live oaks all over. I just like those, but I do like the green. Now, you mentioned the native Oklahoma proven, the Arizona cypress behind me. Never waters that. I had a little trouble. Now it's in the shade. It doesn't do as well as maybe it would in another location, but it also provides a little different texture and a little different color.
It does. It's a good way to add color to your garden without relying on a bloom. Now you do have some blooming plants here. What are some of the blooming plants that you do use? I noticed that you've got crepe myrtles.
I have some small crepe myrtles. When I originally moved in, I had a tremendous shade tree, an old box elder that covered the deck and provided great shade, and this was the only area that was getting any sun. So I planted some hawthorn, some dwarf crepe myrtles, and then I've got a burning bush, and I just like the color of that in the fall. I understand that when you get a lot of rain in the fall, in the spring, you're going to get a lot of red out of that burning bush, so I'm excited to see what happens this year after our record amount of rain. But those are about the only colors that I have, except, well, that's just about it. The hawthorns haven't done anything except survive, in my garden, if they can survive and thrive with neglect, they're going to be fine. And I haven't had to do much. They're kind of crowded there, but...
So tell me a little bit about your hardscapes that you have here, because this path is actually very stable. And what have you used on this to create this path?
I put in a base of clean screenings. I've got about 11 tons included in the circular drive in front. And then I've added almost 24 tons of river rock that provides the pathway. And I have changed that path from time to time, but it goes around the deck and it does provide, it is my circular drive. And one of the things I really like is the crunch under your feet when you walk. It's not like walking on concrete. It's always got a nice crunch to it. So, and when this gets wet, it's just really pretty.
Yes.
A lot of pretty when it's wet.
Well, you mentioned that about it getting wet. That's another aspect of a water-wise type garden, is that the hardscapes that you have are permeable to water. And so you don't get the runoff from it. It actually soaks into the ground, and it's so much better than having concrete, because you're keeping your water where it lands. And so it's just really all comes together to make a beautiful and very water use friendly garden. I just really like what you've done here.
Thank you. Whenever I first started, I had to augment the soil, and I used dry grass clippings from the curbside from my neighbors. I would just grab their bags of clean grass clippings and spread it everywhere, 4 inches deep, and this soil now is just wonderful. And you can see this monkey grass. Of course, 40 inches of water didn't hurt it either, but nonetheless, it'll grow anything, and I'm really happy about that.
Now, when you say clean grass clippings, what does that mean?
Well, it's just the grass that I see in neighbors that take care of their yards. Now, I like nice lawns. I just don't want to take care of one. And when I drive by and see someone that has a nice lawn and they put their bags out there of their grass clippings, well, then I've taken those, let them dry so they're not hot, and then I spread them all over the garden. I had them 4 or 5 inches thick when I was first started. Provide a great base and really has helped the soil. And things just grow, and that's what I'm about, conserving energy and not having to water or be out here and mow, because when you have a lawn, you have to mow when it wants to. In this garden, I can do it on my own schedule, and that's usually in the winter or cool weather.
That's great. So you're conserving your energy as well.
Exactly. You see the Prius in the garage. I'm on Smart Hours Electric. Anything about conservation, I'm for.
Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for showing us your landscape, and you might have to just sit down and enjoy it now.
It's my pleasure, Brenda. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.